Good morning and a warm welcome to HabitSustainable Production Day, our very first digital event. We're so happy that you're joining us this morning. My name is Kajsa Åström. I'm the editor-in-chief of Habit and your host today. Habit is the leading independent magazine and web publisher in Sweden, monitoring mainly the Swedish and the Scandinavian fashion industry. Today, we are arranging this webinar together with our main partner, ISCO, and our partners Lectra, YKK, Sustainable Fashion Academy, and finally Gore-Tex. And we have a really nice program ahead of us. The webinar will be in English and will host both pre-recorded and live presentations, and a live panel discussion will conclude the webinar at around 9:45. The discussion will be moderated by Daniel Mensch from the Sustainable Fashion Academy. He's a well-known face for the Swedish audience, and we're very happy to have him here today. Just some practical matters before we start. While listening, you will be able to ask questions in the Q&A, which you find in the bottom of your screen. There you type the question and press return to send it. And you can also, if you want, write your email address and the question, and the speaker will come back to you after the webinar. This program will be accessible afterwards. You can watch it on vimeo.com. So now I think we are ready to take off. I hope you're well prepared with a good cup of coffee or tea. The first guest this morning is Keith O'Brien. Are you there, Keith? Marketing and Business Development Manager at ISCO. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
Good morning. Live from UK, is that right?
Yes, live from London.
Okay.
Great to be here.
Please. Yeah, please.
Good morning, and thank you for having us today at the Habit Sustainable Production Day in partnership with ISCO. Here at ISCO, we are committed to being a driving force in sustainable production practices, pioneering innovative new technologies that have revolutionized the industry. It is important, however, to understand that to be truly sustainable also means first being responsible. At ISCO, we not only develop cutting-edge techniques and processes in our denim production, but we also use our knowledge and expertise in woven fabric technology to solve real-world issues. At the start of the global COVID-19 pandemic, we saw how single-use plastic mask waste was wreaking havoc on our environment. We decided to use our knowledge and expertise into solving this real-world issue, and so we launched ISCO Vital Plus, organic cotton washable and reusable face masks and covers to help keep you and the people close to you protected. Because at the end of the day, what does sustainable production mean without the people who are part of it? And that is why we are immensely proud to be working with Habit on this project so that we can come together to share ideas, our know-how and our accomplishments. I hope that you will all find the various topics covered in today's webinar not only informative and insightful, but also useful and practical to you and your business. And now I'll hand over to my wonderful colleague, Ebru, to discuss the importance of value chain partnerships. Thank you.
Hi everyone, this is Ebru from ISCO, Sustainability and CSR Division. I would like to welcome you in the digital online platform, Habit Production Day, and I would like to give a bit info about what we did so far and what we are planning to do in the future in terms of getting valuable supply chain and the tier partnership. Let's talk more about what we did so far. So, in terms of traceability, most around the world, it's welcomed as traceability and transparency. We would like to develop, first of all, our partners. Partners, not only the tiers, but also the NGO part, the targeted part, and the valuable partners that make us to step level up. So, what we did. ISCO would like to invest and develop true partnerships in terms of raw material sourcing, as to make our product, is to make our know-how ready and to be transferred for the second level. We would like to be sure about our tiers, our suppliers, our value chain. That's why not only the expectation from them, but to teach them, to make them responsible as much as us, we would like to be in the same platform with them. That's why we create know-how platforms. This is also, the very valuable approach of the environment product declarations with the EPDs, with life cycle assessment. We would like to first understand what we are producing and how we can make them to better conditions, how we can be sure about our impacts to make the impact of the product that we are hearing so far can be less, can be lower. That's why we study our homework for the recent years, and in 2018 we launched lifecycle assessment with EPD verifications that show all of you for producing ISCO fabric, for 1 square meter fabric, what we did. What is the impact of the raw material in the process, in the production, in the core business? What is the effect of our developments? Are we using less? How can we do it? What can we do more? This is a kind of brief summary that gives you in advance, especially to the garment makers, to the tier 1, an advantage to make more sustainable garment making. Because this is all the different facilities has different duties. And our duty to make, first of all, tier 1 to be ready, to be sure about the product that they are developing. In the second stage, also we have tiers. So raw material sourcing, when we are producing semi-raw material, in the raw material sourcing, not only pushing them the targets, the KPIs, what they are sourcing us, we would like to make them also take part in the game. So we say we want this kind of certification and we want this kind of people who make this product in these conditions. So if they are not have capacity or availability, we are teaching them. We are trying to make the SMEs also the part of this big industrial solution. So we are so proud that almost more than 80% of our suppliers right now ready to be also in the SAC platform and to be HIC verification. So we are developing more and more for 2025 as well. So recently I'm talking, the big words, and I'm talking about our commitments. How you can follow us, how you can be sure about what we are planning to do. I would like all of you to welcome our sustainability report platform as well. Please, after these, the great day, the great online platform, I just would like to welcome you our sustainability webpage. You can register your name with your email address and get our sustainability impact report that give you the brief, a kind of almanac, a sustainability almanac of ISCO history and the planning of the future. So this will give you the understanding how we developed, how we make our targets in sustainable development goals as well. Because directions of the facilities, directions of big facilities should be in the same line. And we appreciate about the sustainable development goals, high targets in terms of facility, production, water and carbon footprint targets, and first of all, and ultimately it's the most important thing, human being. How you should share and care what you are doing with the employees, with the people that's around you. I really wish I can get your questions because for a long time, most of you know what ISCO as a denim mill, what we are doing. But maybe, even I'm hearing right now some questions from the other part of the camera. We know you, but what you are planning to do in the next years. Let me give you some brief also information, how we would like to develop our value chain with the raw material sourcing. In ISCO, our targets, I'm not saying this is marketing sentence, our targets are zero. Yeah, zero. Zero waste, zero usage of the hazardous chemical, zero impact of the raw material that we are sourcing. When you are planning this kind of big words, big targets, you have to be sure about what you are together, with whom you are together, shoulder and shoulder. I'm so appreciative the approach of the brands and the retailers, our customers, what they are pushing us to do. And I'm also so appreciate about our tiers who are very long time in our life and will be, that they would like to develop themselves. They are never saying it's enough. Like us, what we choose, from who we choose, they would like to do better and better. ISCO core business, main business is innovation. Innovation can be only done with innovative partners. So in chemical, in yarn, thanks to Sunco, Big Brother company, we are developing better and better with solutions, with less solutions, less impact solutions. So thank you so much for today. Maybe I have more time. Hopefully I will get some questions after you watch this video. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Ebru Özkukgüler. We will hear more from you in the panel discussion in the very end of the webinar. Now, we look forward to listen to Alex McKay, Associate Director at Anthesis. Alex has a long experience helping companies understand sustainability issues. A warm welcome.
Hi, I'm Alex McKay, an Associate Director at Anthesis, and I worked closely with ISCO to help develop their latest sustainability report, which was released in April. Just going to quickly talk about the process that led to that report and the wider significance for the industry. Beginning on working on ISCO's report, we started thinking about the life cycle impacts of denim, as that obviously is going to influence the content of the report. And we all know about the impacts such as high water usage, land usage, pollution from dyeing, and that all plays an important role in the report and also in ISCO's approach. But we wanted to go beyond that, we wanted to look at the positive impacts or the alternative impacts that they had, and looking at the industry guidance that we helped develop, we thought about the physical and emotional durability of the products. It's a concept that was introduced by Jonathan Chapman in his book, Emotionally Durable Design. So physical durability is quite self-explanatory. It refers to whether the garment is well made, if the fastenings are strong, if the colour lasts, and how well it holds its shape. More significant, possibly, or harder to identify is the emotional durability. So we all have those garments that we love, the t-shirt that you keep on wearing, that's perfect, the comfortable pair of jeans, the classic trench coat, just the clothes that you hang on to that you don't want to get rid of. And obviously keeping a good new garment in use for longer in that way reduces the life cycle impacts of that garment. And as a sustainable garment must meet both those criteria. It must obviously be responsibly made, it must be physically durable, and it must also have that emotional durability. It also ties in with the circular economy. It's clear that all industries need to move towards this way of working, and we need products that are recycled, that are recyclable, and we also need products that are durable too and can be repaired. Obviously, denim fits into quite a lot of these categories, and particularly with starting to incorporate recycled content, there are ways to reduce the life cycle impacts of denim fabrics. It's also clear that sustainability is increasingly important for consumers. Many consumers are now saying that they will be willing to pay more for sustainable goods and services, maybe around 50% according to Nielsen, and particularly among Gen Z and millennials, according to Cohen's, about 72% of that 18 to 35-year-old demographic consider the social impact and sustainability in purchasing decisions and are aware of the sustainability of brands. But of course, all this sits alongside other factors such as quality and cost. So we took all these kind of insights that we know and that we'd looked up, as well as ISCO's priorities to start beginning to create the report structure. And that was obviously an iterative and collaborative process. Finding the right content, finding the right split in the report for ISCO, and making sure that their priorities came through, but also these huge industry concerns. We tied this in with on-site content collection, which was conducted by my colleague Candan, who is a Turkish speaker, which was absolutely invaluable to getting the information that we needed for the report. And from all these data sources, started writing the content for the report, getting the right tone, making sure it's interesting, but also providing that reassurance and robustness that ISCO and stakeholders are looking for. Infographics have been really important in the report, finding those visual ways to communicate what can sometimes be complex content, particularly the infographic around EPDs, a subject that many outside the sustainability field find quite difficult to understand. So finding a visual and simple way to communicate what those EPDs are doing was vital as part of this report. And that tied in the whole design process, wanting to communicate the ISCO spirit, to make sure that that innovation, that stylishness, that youthfulness was coming through in the look of the report. And throughout this process, we're also supporting ISCO to help develop their strategy. So steering that direction, suggesting ways of travel, suggesting targets, which we'll come on to later. And I think vitally we worked flexibly with ISCO. This was their first report and our first time working with them. So just finding ways to work with ourselves, such as going on site at the factory site to collect that information and help guide that process. It was important to ISCO and Anthesis that the report was robust. Wanted to make sure that all the information there was as accurate and transparent as possible. And this is something that runs through everything that ISCO do. They're very strong on their third-party verifications, and they're keen to prove their purpose using the third parties. And so obviously the report assurance was was key to this. But there's also making sure that their data, we're finding the right data owners, making sure the level of disclosure was right for the company. And we didn't really have so much of a benchmark here. There's very few companies at this level who are actually creating reports like this. So while we have industry standards, ISCO was setting the standard to some degree with this in the industry. That said, we did aligned GRI. We didn't actually focus on compliance this time, but we're guided by it just to reflect that best practice, and also incorporated links to the SDGs within the report, so to link back to those global priorities. While that's all important, this is also a piece of communication. So there's also ensuring that we're telling those stories, explaining the company approach in an accessible way and showing the progress that the company has made. So bringing that data and that verification to life and making it engaging, essentially. Few stories and innovations that I want to pull out here that ran as a thread throughout the report. R2, which is a recent innovation of ISCO's, was just kind of vital throughout the report. It's their innovation to combine recycled cotton and polyester within their denim. And it really helps us demonstrate that link to the circular economy. And it also helps make the denim more robust, so that durability angle as well. So really showcasing how their commitment to sustainability runs through into their product development and their innovations, and essentially to products that they then sell. The people section also tells a really strong story of working for ISCO and being part of the ISCO family. And something that comes through was working with ISCO as well. And I think the pictures supported this a lot too, backing up those verified stats. So one of the key ones being that ISCO employees in the production facility earn 3 times the minimum wage within Turkey. It's just a great example of how this design and the content work together. I mentioned before the targets, and of course there are things to change, improve, to work on, and ISCO were very open to this and open to our suggestions, and then refined those themselves to come up with the targets that was right for them. And these aren't just short-term targets. We're not just looking at next year, we're looking at 5 years, 10 years in the future. So there are those short and long-term targets in all sections within the report. finally, I want to briefly consider how manufacturers and suppliers and others can take this approach to enhance sustainability with the entire sector. I think it's acknowledged that brands and retailers sometimes have limited visibility of their supply chain. So these kind of reports can really help build that transparency and build those strong relationships within the supply chain. It's also interesting that manufacturers are often seen as laggards in this area, that they need dragging along, that they need keeping in check. But this also obviously shows that there are some good practices, there is innovation happening, so there's learning to happen on both sides that can come together here. The process of reporting and conducting materiality assessments also can help drive those manufacturers to understand better the sustainability requirements of brands and then help them to drive their innovation. And obviously the communication about achievements and plans by manufacturers will help build that trust even more and help build those relationships within the supply chain. So it gives you an oversight of the process we went through and what that means for ISCO and wider. So that's all from me. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, Alex McKay from Anthesis. It's a great honor to introduce our next speaker, August Bard Bringeus. He's one of the founder and he's the CEO of the Swedish brand Asket. The brand's mission is to end the era of fast consumption and build a classic and very limited men's wardrobe. So please welcome August Bard Bringeus from the company's office in Stockholm.
Hi, my name is August Bard Bringeus, and I'm one of the two co-founders of Asket. And I'm going to walk you through how we try to redistribute the value across the fashion supply chain by slowing down and challenging the fundamental principles of seasonal collections and constant renewal. We started Asket, Jacob and I, 2015, because we were frustrated with the amount of clothing we found that we had in our wardrobes and the very limited fraction of that clothing that we actually use every day. When we look at the stuff that we actually like to wear, it looks a little bit like this. So Steve McQueen, obviously maybe a questionable moral character, but nonetheless a style icon. What he's wearing here is basically as good on a cover of any magazine today as it was back in the 60s. Yet what we keep buying looks more like this, like that, or like this. And the reason we keep buying stuff that we actually don't end up wearing is because the systemic properties of the fashion industry, which is built on constant renewal in order to sell more, in order to grow, in order to fill the stores, in order to have something to talk about in the media, the fashion industry needs to renew itself season after season. And these seasons are getting shorter and they're getting more, and the replenishment and the renewal is getting ever faster. And as a result, it's getting increasingly hard, or we found it was increasingly hard to find the garments that we actually use, love, and need the most, despite the fact that they have been around forever. So we were considering, how hard can it actually be to combine what makes up the timeless wardrobe essentials, those pieces that we actually need and use the most. We want to combine a timeless design with a fair price, high quality, and a great fit. But due to the constant renewal in the fashion industry, obviously design is the first thing that is compromised. And when you are creating seasonal design and trying to forecast the next trend all the time, you have a lot of time pressure as a designer and as a merchandiser, as a product developer, which of course means that there will be some sacrifices in terms of quality. As a consumer, of course, you can go to budget brands or lower segment brands and find a low price, but that'll of course be probably from dubious origins and at the expense of the quality. You can go to a more premium brand and probably get something of quality, but you'll need to pay a price that really has nothing to do with the cost of creating that garment. And as for the fit, we've been used to squeezing 3.5 billion men into 5 standard sizes, XS to XL, for a quite long time. But it's obvious that that size system doesn't actually suit everyone. So our solution to this was basically based on 3 principles from the start. First of all, the fundament of what we do is the single permanent collection. So every item that we create needs to be able to be around forever. It needs to have the potential to last in terms of both design, quality, and craftsmanship, and ease of care. And that means that every garment we create has to be around forever. So in 5 years, we've only launched 32 pieces, and all of these pieces are still around. And with fewer garments, then, we have the opportunity to tackle the sizing. So fewer styles, but more and better sizes. So we developed a matrix-based sizing system where every standard size comes in 3 lengths: long, regular, and short. In trousers, it's even 3-dimensional, so we have a build dimension to the inseam and to the waist. And finally, to be able to achieve a better price point, we decided to be online only and direct to consumer. So basically, we're giving back the whole wholesale markup to the customers to make these pieces more affordable. What we realized pretty quickly, though, was that without physical stores and without wholesale, it's pretty hard to manifest quality. How do you explain the value to our customers that they're getting with this direct-to-consumer model? And how do you understand what you're getting for the price that you pay? So we decided to be transparent from the start. We show our factories and the stories of these factories in order to portray the craftsmanship and thereby the association of quality. And we open up our pricing and our costing so that our customers can understand what they're actually paying for in terms of fabric, labor, transport, and what the actual cost of the garment creation is. So providing transparency in an otherwise very intransparent industry. So this helps us explain and manifest quality digitally. It helps the customer better understand the value of the clothing and, of course, appreciate the clothing, because you can actually see the conditions under which they're made. And once you see what's behind the t-shirt, you understand that it's not just coming off a conveyor belt. You're more likely to appreciate that piece over time. I'd like to share a few numbers with you to show that this actually adds up, this philosophy of ours. So again, in 5 years, we've launched 32 garments and we've removed 0. Not a single color has been removed. We might have tweaked and updated colors slightly, improved the garments over time because we can with the permanent collection, but we haven't removed a single garment, which means that we haven't had a single sale, no discounts. And that really proves resilient in times like these. Further on, when it comes to the longevity of the garments, we've done statistical analyses of thousands of customers wearing the Ask It t-shirt. And the minimum average lifetime of an Ask It t-shirt after years of consumer data is about 180 wears. And according to recent studies from Mr. Future Fashion, the average Swedish t-shirt is worn 30 times. So we get 6 times the mileage out of an Ask It t-shirt. And that's important because the impact of creating the Ask It t-shirt isn't a lot better than an average t-shirt, because it's still cotton, it's still that craftsmanship. Dyeing is still very intense in terms of resources, and knitting is very energy intense. It's a little bit better because we have a very consolidated supply chain here in Europe. But when you combine that with the mileage you get out of a well-crafted t-shirt, that means that the relative impact per use, and this is excluding laundry impact because that differs from country to country due to energy grid mixes, but the relative impact per use of an Ask It t-shirt then is 1/10 of the average t-shirt in Sweden. And that's pretty cool. Finally, I get a lot of questions about, what does this mean for the fashion industry? Do we all need to shrink, and what's going to happen to jobs and factories and whatnot? The way we view it is that the slow fashion pie, if you will, is basically the same size in terms of value as the fast fashion pie. It's just a lot smaller in volume and in impact, because, you know, basically that t-shirt that lasts 6 times longer than the average t-shirt means that you just need 1/6 of the t-shirts within those 180 wears. And since it's a better made t-shirt, we'll pay more to the factories, and we'll have factories that are clean in terms of how they operate, how they dye, how they have wastewater management. And at the same time, we can offer a lower price to the customers. So it's really about value distribution across the supply chain in a way that hasn't been done, because the past 20, 30 years, the value has been amassed on the brand side, leaving factories really exposed in times like these with, you know, order cancellations, etc. But if we pay more and pay the true cost of our clothing, both as brands to the factories and as customers to the brands, so that we can actually finance these garments to the factories, then we have a much more stable system where the value creation is really the same, but the volume and the impact is a lot less. And that's all I had to say for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, August Bard Bringeus, CEO of Asket. Let's move forward. Our next guest is account manager Josefin Alengren from Lectra. Her message is that part of the fashion industry is too poorly digitized to meet the sustainable future. How can the industry improve, and what are the profits? Josefin Alengren, you're live from Borås.
Hey, Kajsa. Hi.
Hi. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Before you start, we will watch a short movie.
Fashion on demand will change everything you know about ready-to-wear. How? Well, take Sophia. She wonders why black is the new black. Cars all look the same. And vanilla ice cream is a persistent top seller. Or Noah. He believes in adventure, flannel shirts, and the redeeming power of love. Meet Eric. He can't stand ornamentation, Pantone 224, or breast pockets. Jinyi loves parakeets, crisp new bed sheets, and stripes and more stripes. It's now or never. Personalization is taking over all industries by storm, and even more so in fashion. Modern-day consumers now want clothes that reflect their tastes and personalities. Be the first on the market with Fashion on Demand by Lectra.
Already in 2019, the fashion industry was on high alert. Now it's on red alert. Are your production processes adapted for this new future, where the market drastically have changed and where sustainability fashion will become standard, not just a marketing tool? That means not only using sustainable material, but also that the whole chain from design, product development, sourcing, and up to the production is sustainable, traceable, adaptive, and efficient. For that, new tools and processes are needed to improve the communication, speed up the production, reduce fabric use and waste, and transportation, to be able to trace the collection throughout the whole process. And most of all, only produce what the customer actually wants when it's ordered. Now is the time for the industry leaders to begin preparing immediately actions to bring back business and think more strategically to imagine the next normal and how to profoundly reform current business model in order to survive or get stronger in a reshaped competitive environment. Though sustainability has moved down the executive agenda in recent months, as fashion retailers and brands are struggling to secure their existence, it will re-emerge at the top of the executive agenda and stay there. Sustainable sourcing at scale was a must-have before the COVID-19. Social and environmental sustainability is becoming mainstream in the next normal. The pandemic has shown a spotlight on companies committed to safety and the customers and staff and those working in a global value chain. It has also brought ecological issues such as climate changes to the fore. The pandemic has actually increased in consumers' interest in sustainability. Keep in mind that during the lockdown, consumers have been rethinking their consumption. In recent years, the industry has started to change its outdated sourcing models, characteristic by long lead times, maximize order sizes, and relatively low flexibility. The COVID-19 pandemic offers an opportunity to accelerate transformation towards an on-demand driven supply chain model and sustainable sourcing. COVID-19 has exposed a fundamental weakness in the traditional fashion system matching supply and demand. Industry leaders have long known that the old way of doing this, meaning seasonal manufacturing items abroad, without any advanced customer feedback, and then months later, hoping that this will sell in retail stores around the world, doesn't work. Industry overproduction runs at a credible 30 to 40% each year for a business with $2.5 trillion in global annual revenue. Fashion brands will need to operate more flexibly across the value chain, including the production development process, to cut down the lead time and adapt more responsibly with a deep understanding of a consumer trends and needs. Crucial ingredients in the on-demand supply chain include segmented assortment with smaller batches sizes, increasing transparency, removing of functional silos, utilizing high-efficiency processes, supported by digitalized tool and analytics, and make use of dual sourcing and nearshoring. According to the 2019 Global Wellness Trend Report, fashion is the world's second worst offender in terms of water pollution. It is also responsible for roughly 10% of the carbon emission. The price of beauty on the planet is high and real. So what will be the new normal? A growing number of industry experts believe that fast digitalized on-demand manufacturing is an important part of the next normal of fashion. By using an on-demand model, fashion brands no longer need to order hundreds of something that they may never sell. With on-demand manufacturing, there is no inventory, no fabric waste, no warehousing. On-demand is both more economical and sustainable. Waste in the industry is rampant and expensive. On-demand production allows brands to reduce their upfront need and minimize excessive inventory. Whereas traditional clothing manufacturing is done weeks or months in advance of sales, sometimes half around the world, without any guarantee that it actually will sell. On-demand is speedy and produced it's only made once the sale is done, and it will be shipped in a matter of days. For brands, this means no cost leftovers inventory to send to landfills at the end of the season, a win for both environment and the economy. Currently, $120 billion of unused textiles is thrown on the landfills and burned or left in warehouses. Then what will this new normal bring back? The production needs to be more locally, since on-demand manufacturing is most efficient if production is done close to the end consumer. This allows brands to sell online and deliver to the customer within days without holding inventory. Small local microfactories supporting fashion companies with using of samples, small orders, are already becoming more and more usual. A silver lining to the current outbreak of COVID-19 is the overall growth of online shopping. Consumers who have previously only shopped in physical stores are now purchasing online for the first time. Brands that haven't developed their e-commerce sites are now doing so. Direct relationships are being fostered between customers and brands like never before. And by using analytic tools on your competitor e-commerce sites, you can improve your own business. But to be able to work efficient, the industry needs to be more digitalized. Now imagine that you are preparing your new collection, produced on demand and maybe even customized. With your online competitive analytic tool, using AI, you have scanned your biggest competitors' e-com sites to see what is selling and trending right now and their price strategy. With that in mind, you have created a mood board for small collection and added it to your digital platform. You have tagged the designer who gets an alert that you have sent them something. With your mood board in mind, they do 3D model, and the pattern maker prepare the pattern for you to maximize the fabric consumption. You do a remote fitting in virtual reality. Yes, no real samples needed for this. And then when you're happy with the product, you just fill in checkbox on your platform, and the product is launched directly onto your e-com and social media. So far, you haven't made one single garment. All communications have been via the platform, and you have been sitting in your PJ working from the sofa. Very boring, but yes, what can we do in this strange time? So what happens now in this perfect digital world? During the day, you have received 50 orders of different items in your small on-demand collection. The orders are sent to the cloud directly from your e-com to the cutter at the production site, which is close by. In the cloud, the orders have been processed and grouped depending on the material. And in the factory, the operator of the cutter gets a signal on which fabric to load, and the production can start. After the assembly, the clothing are sent directly from the customer to the end consumer. What have you gained here? A lot of time, no samples, a very efficient marker that will give you 7 to 10% fabric cost each year, and most of all, you have no cash stuck in overstock. Less electricity use, no paper plastic in the cutting room, and less transportation, no warehouse cost, and transparency throughout the whole chain. Is this possible? Yes, some of you are already doing this, working with a highly digital and sustainable and efficient way. I talked to a Swedish fashion brand the other day, asking them how business is doing now due to the crisis. And my contact replied, thanks to the big reorganization we did last year, focusing on digitalization, closing some stores, focusing on small collections on demand production, and improving our e-commerce, we're doing fine. We are actually growing more than we expected. They had acted just in time to create a sustainable, digitalized, time and money saving process ready for the new normal. Do you want to know more about fashion on demand and digitalized production change? Put your email in the Q&A and I will contact you afterwards. Hope you all have a good day. Bye.
Hi, Josephine. Alengren from Lectra. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, time to focus on how the fashion industry can go circular and what is needed to create this shift. A warm welcome to Nina Shariati, Sustainability Strategist, Business Development at H&M Group. We will meet her in her kitchen.
Hi everyone, and thank you for tuning in today to listening to my presentation. I'm coming to you from my kitchen in my apartment, and thank you, Habit, for inviting me to speak about the connection of having standardized data connected to the product, but also digitalization of the product to enable circular economy and to be able to create a circular system. So before we dig into the details of the topic, I would like to take a minute or two just to set the current stage, where we are and where do we need to be, and how does this type of solution come into place. So as many of you already know, we are currently living by a linear model, which is based on sourcing, using and discarding. And in a fashion terms, you start with the design of a product, you product develop it, you source it, you produce it in certain amount of pieces from the same, based on the same design, and when the customers have bought it and use it after a certain amount of time, they tend to discard it. And this linear model comes with a lot of challenges, one of which is that it is responsible for looking at limited or finite resources as if they would be infinite. So we are taking finite resources, and after a short period of time they are turning into waste and ending up on landfill. And there are numbers that are showing that approximately 12 kg of garments are being thrown away per person annually globally, and that number is slightly lower in Sweden. I believe it's somewhere down to 8 kg per person per year, and that is of course problematic. It's problematic from a perspective of having a negative impact on the climate, but it's also a loss opportunity economical wise. There are numbers that are stating that if we would actually capture the challenges, or basically all the garments that are being discarded annually are standing for an economical loss of $400 billion annually. So there's a huge challenge created by the system, but if we would manage to shift this or address these challenges, there are huge opportunities that comes with it. So a suggestion to this is to shift towards the circular economy. And circular economy is based on three main pillars. One is to design out waste and pollution out of the system. The second one is to prolong the usage of the product, to make sure that the product is used and reused as long as possible. And the third one is to regenerate natural systems, basically our own nature, how the planet is working as it is today. So when you want to shift, for us to shift towards the circular economy, you quickly realize that you can't just start by addressing the waste part without starting from the design part. So for us to connect the beginning of the end together, we need to already at the design stage start looking into how is this product needs to be designed so that it can live as long as possible, but also we could easily bring it back and turn it into a new product. And one of the biggest challenge with the shift from a linear to a circular model currently is that the part what I mentioned, that we at the design stage, we don't start preparing the garment for us to be able to bring it back into the loop to make a new garment. But the second one, which is actually equally important, is that by the time that the garment actually ends up by the circulators, or let's say in H&M Group's case with ICO, they have a really hard time accessing necessary data to know what the garment is actually made of, what has been going to the garment, what are the composition, what type of chemicals have been put into it, etc., to be able to utilize the material in the best possible way. And also that process is currently done very manually. That means there are actually people who look through by feeling and touching the garment, trying to figure out what's in the garment. Best case scenarios, there are labels with hang tags that are stating cotton elaston, but there is a need to know much more. There is a need to understand more about the product to be able to make that whole recycling, upcycling, reselling process more efficient. And that's where digitalization of the garment and standardized data come in. Because imagine if by the time the garment ends up at ICO's sorting facilities, that they could easily access by, let's say, scanning the product to a list of data that is standardized, that is used by the whole industry, where it's stated exactly where was this product produced, who produced it, what kind of material is in this garment, what kind of chemicals have been used, etc. Whatever that the recyclers then need to make their process as efficient as possible, to actually being able to turn as many old garments into new garments. And for that you need, as I mentioned, a standardized data that is set for the whole industry, but then also you need to have a system where this product can where different stakeholders can access that data and can track the data depending on the need that they have. So if you are, for instance, a reseller, you would need to have access to certain type of data, while if you want to recycle it into a new garment, you would need to have access to a different type of data. So that's why the standardized data and the a system where the garments can flow through the system, where different stakeholders can access data in a transparent way and in an easy way, becomes extremely important to create a circular ecosystem. And there is, of course, much more to it than what I'm being able to tell you more about, and this is not something that we can do by ourselves. It's not going to be up to one brand or one service provider to develop this. There are multiple different initiatives out there who are either looking into the standardization part of it or the ecosystem part of it, to make sure that the industry as whole can develop a common ground for how we share, how we access data, what kind of data we are following. And the initiatives that are out there where we are collaborating with, when it comes to the standard, we are collaborating with CIS and RISE, and there's also Winnova projects out there. But then there's also a very interesting initiative by UNECE, where they are actually looking into developing both standard part when it comes to traceability, transparency, but also circularity part of the garment industry. They're also looking into policy recommendation to put forward to EU Commission, but they're also looking into how that system could look like. And what does that mean? What kind of platform is needed? What kind of technology is needed? And I'm also part of that team. So with that, that's my 10 minutes. I hope this was this created some kind of insight for you. And if anything, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Nina Shariati, H&M Group. 2 speakers left before we will welcome Daniel Mensch and the panel, which is Nina Shariati that you just heard, Jonas Claesson, designer and founder of the Swedish brand Generica, and finally Ebru Özgürçük-Güler from ISCO. But first, I welcome Jo Matthias, sustainability specialist at YKK.
Hello everyone, my name is Jo Matthias. I work for YKK. Before I start my presentation, let me first thank you all for joining this webinar today. And I would also like to thank Habit for giving us the chance to speak today. Okay, we only have 10 minutes, so let's get started. So YKK is actually a group of companies. It was founded in Japan in 1934, and ever since we've grown to become present in 72 different countries and territories around the world. But the company was founded with this philosophy of the cycle of goodness. with the saying that no one prospers without rendering benefit to others. So we as a business want to thrive, but we are also aware of our customers, our employees, society in general, and we want them to thrive along with us. That's the only way to reach actual prosperity. And well, because we're all in this world, in this environment, in 1994, the Waikiki Group released our environmental pledge that was almost 26 years ago. Well, to acknowledge that obviously we do have an impact in the environment with our operations, but we're making the reduction of our environmental impact one of the top priorities to ensure that this prosperity that we want to achieve can also be ensured for future generations. So, a quick introduction of the Waikiki Group. We have our Fastening Products Group division, also our Architectural Products division. We're not going to talk about these guys today. I'm part of the Fastening Products Group, and both of these businesses, they're supported by the Machinery and Engineering division. So that's where we design and manufacture our machines that we use to make the zippers, the buttons, the buckles that we sell to our customers. We have this vertically integrated production system in place. So basically we are in full control of the essential manufacturing steps of all of our standard items, and we don't just put pieces together to make a zipper. We make every single part of the standard products that we have. So we make the tape here, we make the teeth, we make the slider, the puller, the smaller parts as well. And obviously, because we have such good control of our manufacturing process, we're able to make products that are meant to last. They're able to withstand thousands of openings and closings, and even if you try to force them open, they're not gonna break because, well, they're supposed to last long enough. So yeah, you have a quality product in your hand, but it's also important to know what is behind the manufacturing of these high quality products, things that you don't really see just by touching the product. Like ensuring that the workers in the factory are working in safe conditions, also that the waste output of the factory is kept in a responsible way, that we treat all of the waste that we put out there. And yeah, obviously we are doing that, and we have an internal audit system in place for that, which we call the YKK Global Criteria of Compliance. It was made based on the ISO standards, ISO 26,000 standards for corporate social responsibility. So we're covering topics like the environment, people and labor, and business ethics with this internal audit system. It is a self-assessment that we do, but we also hire third parties to make sure that the information in this self-assessment is accurate, so we can use it to ensure to our customers that we are a responsible business throughout our operations, that we're not just making high quality products, but we're making them in a responsible way. That aside, because we know that the environment is something that we have to preserve, last year in July, we published this YKK Environmental Vision 2050 with the ultimate goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2050. With it, we want to address 4 different topics. So climate change, better use of materials, of more sustainable materials, better water and resource use, and also the reduction of chemical use, and also better waste management and, well, reduction of waste output as well. We are working on the actual numbers that we want to achieve in each of these topics by 2050. We expect to have to have those goals set by the end of this fiscal year. But this is just a commitment that we made ourselves. There are also industry commitments that we're part of as well. There's the United Nations Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action and also the Science-Based Targets for CO2 footprint reduction. We joined both of these initiatives in March of 2020, this year, with the goal of becoming compliant with the Paris Agreement, of achieving the Paris Agreement. That means to keep global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And well, to do that, we need to reduce our carbon footprint drastically. For this midpoint target, we have by 2030 the goal to reduce 30% of our carbon footprint throughout our operations and our suppliers as well. We're going to work with suppliers that are committed to this cause as well. Now, a quick introduction to our sustainable items. For example, there's more than just these, but we don't have a lot of time to talk about them, so I just took a few. We have Natchalon, which is a zipper made with recycled polyester. There are two types of Natchalon, one made with yarn that is made of recycled polyester bottles, PET bottles, and another one that is made with recycled textile waste. There's also Green Rise, which is a polyester zipper, but this polyester yarn that we use is partially made from plant-based materials. So they're made from sugarcane molasses waste. There's also our zipper made with tencel fibers, which is a cellulosic fiber made by Lenzing, an Austrian company. And also organic cotton tape zipper. By being an organic cotton, obviously, we are sourcing a yarn that was made from cotton that was raised, that was farmed, using less chemicals and also ensuring the right working conditions for the workers. And lastly, there is Natchalon ocean sourced. As a Natchalon item, it is a recycled material item, but this one, it's made using ocean-bound plastics. So the yarn is made from PET bottles collected from seashores and surrounding areas. With this, we are addressing the waste issue, and also by using recycled material, there's a carbon footprint reduction that we can achieve instead of using virgin material. And we have a video to show you guys to introduce Natchalon, because this is our newest product. We just released it this year. Yeah, so please enjoy the video.
Without the ocean, we wouldn't exist. Our very lives depend on its health. All the best memories of my childhood are in some ways linked to it. This is really where I feel most at home. Being on the ocean is almost a spiritual experience. We are facing an environmental crisis in our oceans. The waters that sustain our planet are being overrun by plastic waste. It's estimated that 8 million tons of plastic enter the ocean every year. The environmental damage to all marine life is immeasurable. Millions of birds, turtles, and fish are negatively impacted by this debris. Every year, around 100,000 whales are entangled in discarded fishing nets and other plastic waste. Plastic is even being found in internal organs of fish, entering our food supply. Of all that waste entering the ocean, around 80% comes from land-based sources. Plastic waste is dumped on land and makes its way into streams and rivers, or is blown into waterways. There are dedicated people out there who are organizing to collect this waste. But it can only be truly sustainable if the plastic itself can become a valuable commodity. If we all get together, even small actions can become a big movement. Let's protect our greatest natural asset, the ocean.
Thank you so much, Jo Matthias from YKK. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the Q&A while listening, and the speakers will try to answer them. You can also type your email address together with a question, and the speaker will come back to you after the seminar. Now, time for our last speaker this morning. I'm glad to present Marie Mauve, Director Sustainability Engagement, Fabrics Division, Gore-Tex brand. Welcome.
Good morning. My name is Marie Mauve and I work with sustainability engagement at the Fabrics Division in WL Gore & Associates. Gore is a global materials science company, probably best known for our waterproof, windproof and breathable Gore-Tex fabric, which revolutionized the outdoor industry some 40 years ago. We call ourselves an ingredient brand, remain a leading innovator and partner with some of the world's best outdoor and lifestyle brands. You may have heard of our Guaranteed to Keep You Dry promise. It expresses our high performance aspiration, but it also reflects a key aspect in our sustainability strategy, namely durability. We test our products extensively, both in labs and in real-world condition field tests, to continually improve it. But what does durability have to do with circularity? And why is the traditional environmental footprinting missing an important factor? That's what I would like to focus on today. We have all heard that the design stage is crucial to determine a product's environmental footprint. But when confronted with many different terms and choices, it may be hard to judge which material is really sustainable. The ideal case would, of course, be a highly durable product with zero environmental footprint, which can be used again and again and then easily recycled. But that doesn't normally reflect reality. Usually one aspect comes at some cost of another. So how can you prioritize? Making choices based on science is central to Gore's sustainability work, and we have been using life cycle assessment for almost 30 years now. We also use tools such as the Higg MSI to assess our materials, but those tools are not giving the whole picture, and I will come to why. The core of the industry's problem was illustrated well by Ellen MacArthur Foundation in this graphic from 2017. We doubled our production and consumption from 2000 to 2015, as shown here by the black line. And we used things only half as long, as shown by the green line. So by choosing a material with an improved environmental footprint, we get a bit better. But it won't get us to the heart of where we need to go. In classic LCAs, the use phase is often seen as a part of the environmental cost. It adds the impact of washing and drying, etc. But the use phase also entails an important positive aspect. Longer use is the single most important factor to reduce a product's footprint, according to, for example, this study from last year by Sandin et al. From Mistra Future Fashion. You can see here that when using a product for twice as long, the environmental footprint is cut in nearly half. This is hard, if not impossible, to beat by any other environmental aspect. And this has been confirmed by our own analysis since years. In other words, we need less, but better. Life cycle analysis is a crucial tool to understand the absolute environmental impact of a product. But looking only at the absolute impact may be fooling us when we search for a sustainable material. For example, if we just lower the weight of a material, we'd automatically have a better absolute footprint. But if this comes at the price of a significantly less durable product, did we really gain anything? As said, we want products that last and are used for longer. So to get a more complete picture and better reflect the sustainability of a material, you would need to take duration of use into account. We need to look at the relative environmental footprint, and this is the missing link. This is a simplified graph to illustrate the theory of relative environmental impact of a product, taking durability into account. So the y-axis shows the environmental footprint, and the x-axis shows its change over time. So product A, the red line, is a highly durable, functional, and complex jacket. The environmental impact initially is high, but because it lasts and is used long, the footprint is divided over the years. So at the 10-year point down there, you could see that the environmental footprint has decreased significantly. Product B, the second lighter red line here, is a less complex but recyclable jacket, which has a smaller environmental footprint at the beginning, about half. It only lasts 2 years though, but some of its initial investment can be recovered during the recycling process. So let's just pretend that it's a zero game. So it keeps going on in cycles, and after 10 years you can see that where it lands. Product C, the black or the gray line here, is a low quality jacket, which has a small environmental cost. At the beginning, it's only a fifth of the jacket A, the first one, but it lasts only for 1 year and it cannot be recycled. So although you divide the cost over the time, the accumulated environmental cost is going to be much higher. And this is where most of products made today are found. So coming back to the initial dilemma of what to choose. The needs for durability and the meaningfulness of recycling will likely differ between types of products, but a general rule of thumb is that although recyclability or recycled content is important, it should not come at the cost of durability. At Gore, when we make material choices, we try to balance environmental footprint aspects with durability and performance. And not all choices are as easy as, for example, solution dye. That is a technology where the environmental footprint is decreased, and at the same time, some aspects of durability also increase. So that's an easy choice to invest in, of course. So how can you measure durability? Historically at Gore, we have verified our durability through extensive field testing to see how and when things fail, and then learn and improve from it. We're also trying to translate this now into lab-based methods because we recognize that there is a need for such tests to be able to measure and compare products broadly. There are currently some good initiatives starting to elaborate on putting lifetime into the environmental footprint equations, such as the HIG product module, the EU product environment footprint, and the Nordic eco-label, for example. But durability is often confused with initial quality of a material. This is not enough because you need to test on a garment level too, because zippers, seams, and buttons also play an important role. And most importantly, you need to test after some wear, tear, and washing. We're keen to explore this with others, how durability measurement can be used more broadly in the future. Now, why does durability matter to the circular economy? Initially, circular economy used to be focused around end of life, waste collection, and recycling, and that has tilted our focus away from the actual key aspect, which is waste prevention. So durability indeed plays an important role in the circular economy. For example, favorite products can be used for longer. It also allows for longer rental cycles, enhancing profit. It allows for a more attractive second-hand market with higher values and longer cycles. And it usually also enhances the quality of mechanical recycling. This all said, although longer use of fewer products may be the most important environmental aspect, there are clearly many other important sustainability topics we work on, from chemicals to water impacts, material efficiency, human rights, and as an industry, we collectively need all product improvements we can to move towards less global emissions. One example I would like to take the opportunity to mention now is that Gore has just announced its climate goals. in line with staying well below 2 degrees. So by setting science-based absolute emission goals, we decouple growth of the company from our environmental impact. We aim to cut 60% of absolute emissions from our manufacturing and office sites and 35% of absolute product-related emissions until 2030. And we're striving for climate neutrality in 2050. So I know that after my presentation now, there is a debate on a potential new EPR system in Sweden, and my message for that debate would be, make sure to incentivize the right things. Follow the waste hierarchy and incentivize durable products. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie Mauve from Gore-Tex. As I said before, we're happy to have Daniel Mensch with us this morning. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. You will lead the panel discussion.
Indeed, I will. Yes.
But before we start, will you just tell us very short about what Sustainable Fashion Academy do?
Right. What I can say is that over a decade ago, when Sustainable Fashion Academy started, I think we made a very good choice of the name, because the name still holds very well, Sustainable Fashion Academy. So largely we are about educating, engaging the fashion industry around sustainability challenges. And we do other kinds of outreach and engagement.
Okay, thanks. Very clear.
Yes.
Now we welcome also the experts debating today. Please welcome Nina Chiarati, H&M Group. Jonas Claesson, designer and founder of Generica, the Swedish brand. And finally, Ebru Oshkushuk-Güler from ISCO. So, please, Daniel.
Thank you. Well done. Right, it's a pleasure to be here. What I thought we would do is kind of pull in some of the key themes that were mentioned during the course of this morning and put them into some kind of a case, a context. So the themes that I chose to focus on are transparency and traceability, which we heard come up several times, digitization, thank you. It's my modersmål in English. Then also circularity. And the kind of the backdrop that I want to put that into is the proposed chemical tax on textiles or apparel and footwear that is now being discussed in Sweden. If you're not familiar with that proposal, very briefly, it's a book about this big, about 420 pages. But very briefly, it will require those brands putting product onto the Swedish market to provide reliable information about the chemical substances, or you could say lack of harmful chemical substances in those products. And if that reliable verification is not provided, then those garments will be subject to a tax of 40 crowns per kilo, which is interesting. So you can imagine a pair of jeans, which is usually about 500 grams, 20 extra crowns in cost. So the proposal is certainly not without discussion and debate, but the idea is to talk about the merits of the proposal or the mechanics of it, but it's an interesting backdrop because of the notion of having reliable, verified information around the potential presence of harmful substances in garments, or hopefully the lack of that. And there's a lot about information and as well as a prerequisite for a circular economy. And it's interesting to note that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, in their new textiles report, they put as #1 is the, let me get the name right here, their #1, you could say, step is to phase out substances of concern as a prerequisite for the circular economy. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, and it's an interesting notion. So what I'd like to do is start with, and what I can say is that it's a real pleasure to have this panel here, and it's a very nice mix. We have a small brand, we have a very huge brand, and we have a supplier. So we have some opportunities to kind of talk about the implications of providing this kind of information, and which I think we all, maybe we would like to see that scenario in the future, that we have that information available. So we'll start with a question to the small brand Generica, Jonas. And actually, let's do this before I actually posed the question, maybe you could very quickly give us a sense of Generica, for we haven't seen you earlier in the morning. So maybe you can tell us just very briefly about Generica and particularly its supply chain.
Yes, hello and good morning everybody. My name is Jonas Claesson. I'm the co-founder and creative director of Generica. We are quite newly established Swedish denim brand. We work we call ourselves Generica because we want to work with a very classic product, and we work very closely with ISCO as our main supplier of fabrics and production.
Right. Thanks, Jonas. A question for you as a small brand, when we talk about access to reliable chemical information, I mean, to what extent if you think about the information that you get from your supply chain, how in control do you feel as a small brand, or maybe how exposed do you feel in terms of that information?
No, as you know, I mean, navigating a new brand and a small brand is complicated as it is, and the power and the resources to control chemicals and fabrics and stuff like that is very limited. So we are very exposed, I must say. And I mean, for us, it was very important to team up with somebody that we know had a very strong work and a strong report and in that kind of sense of the fabrics. So that's why we also chose ISCO as our main supplier of our core business, which is denim.
Right, thanks. Well, that's interesting that was one of the reasons that you chose them. I assume that you have other suppliers in your supply chain. Is it such that you can put kind of chemical management competence as a high priority when you're choosing suppliers for your supply chain as a small brand?
Definitely, I think. I mean, today, I mean, we would like to be a sustainable brand. We work with organic cottons, recyclable polyester and so on. But for us to control that part is fairly hard. So it really is one of the decision points that we need to take, and one of the most important things when we choose the supplier and who we work together with. So for us as a small brand, it's quite high up on the list when you choose the supplier today.
All right, thanks for that. Let me turn to the supplier, to ISCO, and ask Ebru, this scenario, if this proposed chemical tax in some shape or form becomes a reality, which would mean that in all of the products that you produce, those products that are destined for the Swedish market, they could be from Swedish brands or other brands, but those that are coming for the Swedish market, there will be likely additional, more robust requirements for the nature of the information and how verified the information is. How do you see something like that?
Hi Daniel, I'm happy to be here with all of you very mentors. Let me answer the question in the general perspective as a supplier. What we did so far in 2 years, of course, we have been caring about our chemical and chemical management, let's say last, the 10, 15 years. But recently, what we did, when, by the end of 2019, when the Swedish government, the launch, the internally first, then, the international, the news that they are planning a kind of chemical angle, a chemical tax angle to Swedish brands. Also, we just look our portfolio, how much we are ready. We check our RSL and MSDS, the position. We have been ZDHC member for 3 years, and then also we became Blue Sign partners. So why these are important? Because double check of why the management system is very important, chemical management system. And right now we are, as being a Blue Sign partner, all our chemicals are in the level 3 platform. And also internally we develop our, the team with great, the people who are focused on chemical engineering and the future of chemicals. What can we innovate more? ISCO is known very well with innovation, so we also do something with the innovation in chemical innovation. So we make our suppliers to be part of the game. So as a result, what it means, not only the Swedish brands, as a globally, we have to be ready because we cannot divide our RSL report. These are for Swedish brands, these are not. And one more very important thing, we are not directly shipping to Sweden. We are shipping to garment makers of the Swedish brands. So we have to make them ready as well worldwide.
Wow, thank you for that insight, very helpful. Let me just ask you very briefly, I want to keep control of the time here. To the extent that there will be a requirement for even more investment on top of all the investments that you've made and more of an operating cost, what responsibility do you think that the brands should take for that investment and those additional costs?
We always say it has to be an equal partnership. We are not saying, if brands want something, they have to pay. This is not something, the one way, the win-win position. That's why, of course, we have to put our hand on the table. But in the meantime, we want everybody in this, the project to think mutual. Of course, we have to do it. Not for only Sweden, but for Scandinavia, for others. And one more thing, I will just end my sentence. If Sweden starts something in 2-3 years' time, globally, this will happen.
Well, thank you for your confidence and your vote of support. Let me turn it to Nina. You talked about transparency, you talked about digitization, product information, standard product information, and you talked about it as being valuable for those companies that are sorting used garments. Do you think that this could be a realistic solution for information being provided to the Swedish tax authority, in this case of the Swedish chemical tax?
Hi, yes. Hi, Daniel. I am coming to you from my kitchen again, and I'm still recovering from watching my video. I had to leave the room. I'm just not used to this kind of setup. But to kind of repeat what I said, when looking into circular economy, it's based on 3 main pillars. One is to design out pollution and waste. The second one is to prolongate the usage of the products. The third one is to regenerate natural system. And looking into all these 3 areas, we still have a lot of work that needs to be done. There are massive challenges. But one key in enabling this, yeah, you're nodding. So one key in enabling this is actually that data, standardized data that can be shared and is easily accessible, but is also like a holistic, industry is using the same set of data. And with that kind of data and having that technology and having that data repository that can easily share data through APIs to different stakeholders, yes, that could be easily done. But I just want to emphasize the fact that we still need to be mindful of the purpose, and we still need to be aware of why we are doing that, and whatever legislation that is being put out there, it needs to fulfill the purpose. And to echo what Maria Move mentioned before, that it's really important to know why we are doing things, and also to incentivize the ones that are actually doing something correctly, but also incentivizing the right things.
Right, thanks for that.
And building upon that is that what we see with the chemical tax positions, we were initially very positive to it, but the suggestion that is been put out there is just not robust enough, which is not maybe capturing the complexity that is within the fashion industry chemical perspective. And here we are working with collaborators, industry-wise, global-wise. The DHC was one important one to getting rid of the hazardous chemicals.
Right. As it regards the idea of having product information digitized following the product, what's a realistic horizon, time horizon for something like that? be a possible solution?
I mean, you're asking a really, really tricky question. It's basically saying, when will we able to, I mean, become a proper circular economy, right? So we have a deadline. We have that 2030 that we need a lot of innovation for us to reach there. And if we look at the reports that was put out there by Global Fashion Agenda recently, we are not speedy enough when it comes to innovation, but we definitely need to speed up that investment and that process. And if I would answer the standard suggestion proposal that UNEC is looking into, they're planning to have something ready already 2021. I think it's by summer 2021.
Thank you very much, Nina. And actually with that, we're drawing short on time, but I just wanted to maybe pick up on that. You mentioned the UNECE. They will also be providing some more information about the work they're doing in an upcoming almost full day web dialogue called Textile Dialogue that Naturvårdsverket, the Swedish EPA, and the Swedish Chemical Agency are co-hosting. So that's on the 7th of October. So if you want to hear more from the UNECE, that's a really good opportunity. So thanks very much. Run out of time, but I think we got some really interesting insights and some good answers. A lot of food for thought. And I think with that, I will tack för mig. Thank you from me.
Yeah. And thank you, Daniel Mensch, and thanks the panel as well. So time flies. It's time to end this interesting webinar. I hope you have enjoyed it, and it's been a great honor to have you all with us today. Thanks for attending, and I hope to see you soon again, hopefully in real life next time. All the best from Habit. Thank you.